instead of building a perfect product and reach out, to VC and pitch to them, you should really spend time on yourself, learning different perspective, different like try to fill the gap of the skill set that you don't have.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I am your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's also the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with patents and trademarks. Today I'm excited to share another fun journey of a great creator and inventor, Mao Du. Is that how I say it right? Close enough?
Yes. Yes.
All right. And so we have at least a little bit of a common connection. She lived in Salt Lake City for a period of time. I'm too much of a city or a country boy to like Salt Lake City. And I realize that that's really backwards in the sense that Salt Lake City's not that big of a city when you compare it to a lot of other big cities. But we've both been in Utah, so she's been here for a period of time. Now she's out in Salt Lake, or moved from Salt Lake City to California near Silicon Valley, and is working to help to fix the housing crisis and make things a little bit more affordable and allow people to be able to own their own homes. So that's my introduction, but welcome onto the podcast, Mao.
Devin, thanks for having me.
So I gave a bit of an introduction, which I'm sure didn't do a nearly as good of justice, but maybe I'll turn it over to you. Maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us a little about your journey.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Mao, and we are a real estate tech startup starting in Bay Area. And then our startup think that we find a perfect solution for urban housing problem by matching 2 to 3 renters who like the same house and with the similar financial background together to lead them to co-buy a home through our platform. According to the survey, 80% of American millennials want to own a home, and it's a symbolic milestone to adulthood. But millions of millennials cannot afford it due to the high cost of living, and now we think that Coho Now can make this dream come true for them.
All right. Well, no, that's a great introduction and summary. So now I'm going to force you. So as you know, and we've talked about before, part of our podcast is now telling the journey of how you got to where you're at with your current business. So maybe let's back up a step or two and kind of how did you get into it? So prior to starting this business, where were you at? What were you doing? And what led to where you're at now?
Sure. So I always have a dream to own a home and live in my own way. And as you mentioned, I previously lived in Salt Lake, and I moved to California in 2018. And the struggle of housing became a sharp reality when I moved to Bay Area from Salt Lake.
And I'll interject, and I didn't mean to interrupt you right off the bat, but we were talking a little bit before, and I had to laugh because I've been in Utah most of my life. I did go out to, I lived in Cleveland, Ohio for about 4 years when I was doing graduate school. And I lived, when I started a mission for my church, I was in Taiwan for a couple of years. Beyond that, I've always been in Utah. And so I didn't really get a feel for the housing market when I was in either of the other 2 areas. And so when I started out my career early on, I worked for a law firm, and it was based in Palo Alto out in California. And so I made the mistake when I was going out and I was visiting the law firm there, the offices there, and people, it seems like every time I've gone to California, people always like to talk about the great deal they found with housing or everything else, which is like, yeah, I found a 1,000 square foot house and it was only $1.5 million, those type of things. But I remember one time when I was out there and I was talking with them and I said, somebody was saying that they just bought a house, and I said, oh, how many acres is that, or what acres is that? And they're like, no. We don't measure in acres. We measure in square feet. And if you happen to have a yard and it's like 10 or 20 square feet, that's a great thing. And most people don't have that.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, that was my first introduction into the California real estate market. So I feel for you moving from Salt Lake to where we measure things in acres, and it's a reasonable price in comparison to going to California. So didn't mean to interrupt your journey, but go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, exactly. That's the pinpoint that right after I moved to California, I realized every single thing, every rent, every landlord that are charging rent like above like 1,500 right now, I would say for single room.
Mm.
And yes, it's definitely measured by square foot. And actually, surprisingly, first year that I moved to California, I had to move 4 times because the landlord keep raising my my rent,
Mm.
and I freak out, right? I feel strongly insecure every time when I move to a new place, and I had hoped that was the last time when. So anyway, so not only because of the high rent, and also because I don't get to live in my own way. So that's why I think like I luckily find a room for kind of cheap apartment with the 1,200 per month kind of rent. I remember sitting in my 100 square feet room and thinking I could buy a home in Salt Lake with this rent. Then it occurs to me, what if there was a way that I could own just the room I was living in, so I don't have to wait so many years to saving up to participate in the real estate investing. No more rent goes to waste. So that's why, I come up with this idea and thinking, okay, and I dig into the number, makes sense that people living in the house and can come up with a mortgage payment which very similar to the rent that we pay to landlord. That's why after pondering this possibility over several sleepless nights, I put together a full-fledged business model that would become Coho now today.
So I'm going to jump back, and I think that's very interesting. I'm going to jump back because when we talked a little bit before the podcast, we also talked, you moved to California. I think you had a tax background, right? And if I remember right, you kind of you went to the startup community and said, hey, you wanted to do a startup or wanted to do your own business. And so you went around, I think it was for 6 months or so, and kind of see what was hot, what was not, what were the pain points, and kind of as you're trying to figure out where you wanted to go. So maybe just give a little bit of background. How did that go for that kind of 6 months? Why did you kind of settle on you gave a little bit on the real estate market and doing the co-home ownership. How did you do that in a mix of, kind of going around for those months?
Yeah. So during those 6 months that I was not like full focus on finding a job, instead I want to give myself a little bit of time to know the market, and especially in a real estate market, because it's a big thing in Silicon Valley. Anyone that own a home, actually it's a big thing. And the second of all is the startup mode, startup weather. So I actually luckily become a volunteer, joined V Lab, which is down in Palo Alto, Main Street. And they bunch of volunteer people and get together and to talk about what's the what's the hot topic. By that time it was blockchain. And definitely, there are some other people talking about how we can use blockchain to change all sorts of life, like cryptocurrency was very hot by that time, 2018. And I've learned, actually, I went to Stanford for one of the class, which is a venture capital class. They were teaching how to change the idea into a startup business. And I think the critical thing that I learned is whether your idea can turn into something scalable or not. And also you need to figure out the market size. That's why, I spent another 6 months trying to group in engineers who share the same passion and about homeownership. We come up with, we went through hundreds of interviews to conduct market research, and we realized that amount and extent to which people are frustrated about paying high rents and getting no return is actually substantial. And that's why we come up with this minimum viable product initially to test more people to shaping the product. And surprisingly, actually, I thought, people could not own a home, maybe are just for normal worker. Surprisingly, the people that we interview is the tech worker, some lawyers, teachers, and also some accountants, CPA. And many have lived with roommates for a year or two, and average year that they become a renter was about like 5 years ish. So, and when we talk about housing, they always feel hopeless and burdensome. And so that's why when we reach out to them and we talk, we say, hey, you know, we can actually finding very similar financial background and education level of people to group you guys together so that you guys can own a house. And as soon as I told them that, and they feel, oh, this is like life-changing thing for me. It's definitely revolutionary.
So, and I agree, because I think it's an interesting or novel approach to how you're going, or you're dealing with, you know, especially in high cost areas or high real estate areas where housing is very expensive, and it can often be, you talk about, and I think about, you know, almost to your point, you know, there are some that if they have a high enough paying job, or they're the startup founder in Silicon Valley and they get enough investment, they can afford their own. But for most people, it's still pretty expensive. And so, you know, how did you, I get that you kind of came to the conclusion, hey, homeowning is expensive. It's going to be hard for people to own homes. Can't we do something? How did you come up with the idea, let's start to split the cost, or to see if we can partner people together? I mean, it seems like a newer, different approach beyond what I've heard. So how did you kind of figure out that model that made sense or would work?
Well, yes, definitely. There was a novel idea initially. And then when we start pitching to lenders, pitching to real estate, like a real estate like a title company, realtors and lenders. And when we ask them, you know, whether there's any obstacle for this kind of regulation wise, you know, is it really much difference between co-owning with a stranger or versus co-owning with family? And to me, their answer to me is no, there's no much difference. And so that's why, you know, I think, okay, why not just do it? Why not just talking to more people to, you know, to see whether people have done this approach in the past. And we have actually talked to several people, and they did co-own a house with a bunch of people, and then they sell it out at a profit over the year, or they getting settled down and getting married. So I think that's kind of you know, after that, you know, I realized, okay, this is not novel, and people doing that all the time. But we just need a platform that can scale it out and to let more people know there is opportunity that you don't have to wait so many years to build up. Instead, you can invest in while living right now.
Okay, no, I think that makes good sense. And so you hit on one topic that we talked a little bit before about, where I almost had the same question of, so let's say you take your platform, which I think is cool and it makes good sense. And I want to go, and let's say I go back to my singles day. Now I'm married with 4 kids, and so probably wouldn't quite fit with my lifestyle. But let's say I went out, you take someone that goes out Silicon Valley, wants to get a home, can't afford it by themselves. So they go on your platform, they find someone else that also wants to get a home. We pull our resources, and we go find the home that we think we'll both want to invest in. We co-own, and 3 or 4 or however many years down the road, that person that I originally went in with says, okay, now I'm going to move, or I'm getting married, or I have a different job opportunity. Right. So how does that work on your platform, or how do you deal with at some point if people, or somebody loses their job, right? So, I'm working, I want to do co-ownership, but I lose my job. How do you deal with that on your platform?
So right now we have 4 different options, right? We recommending people to co-buyer to consider. First is the buyout option, which is the people who stay can come up with a down payment and some profit that the other person can just buy that person out. So that's one option for the co-buyers. The second option is if the co-buyer doesn't want to totally exit, and they can still rent it out the room. Just make sure that have a good agreement in advance that cover those kind of scenario, and what the criteria for the other person who renting their room, and how long that takes. So those are very nitty-gritty thing we need to cover in those agreement, which we have provide for our customers in advance. And third option is, because our platform 2 people initially, we can do the same methodology to bring a third people to replace the people who want to exit. And for a lending perspective, it's a very normal refinance scheme. It's just a refinancing. And we will make sure to calculate every single thing before the person out. So the fourth option that the co-buyer can consider is we actually working with the finance company. For example, if one person stop paying the mortgage payment, and they list their shares on our platform while waiting for the buyer, and during that time frame, if he really couldn't come up with the payment, we have a finance company, and the finance company can issuing the debt financing for those couple months until this person sells his share out. And we will, the mass part, we will take care of it.
Okay, no, I think
all the terms, those are all the terms going to be covered in the agreement in advance. Yeah.
Okay, so no, I think that makes sense. So if I were to reiterate, so one is just, hey, if I could buy the partner out, so to speak, and I can, if they don't have the money or they don't want to, and I have the money, I can just buy out their position. 2 is that the person can move out, they can continue to rent it out to somebody else, or if they just wanted to continue to invest in the home, they could. Or you can also help them to find a new partner to come in and either take over their position or to do something else so that they can, replace his spot, so that they can then, somebody else that's looking to have home ownership can do that. So I think it prevents people or provides people with a lot of different good options. So we take that. So you came up with you moved out to Silicon Valley. You came up, you went to the startup community for a while, figured out their pain points, settled on this one, said, okay, I think I've got something here. You then went out and surveyed people, said, hey, has this been done before? Would you be interested? Which I think is all good steps, right? You come up with the idea, then you start to do almost a market survey, test it out, make sure it would work before you invest too much time and effort into it, see if people would be willing to do it. You do all of that. You finally figure out that all of those work, and you start to found the company, get it going. So how did that go, or how has that been going now that you're actually developing the company, developing the idea, building it out, seeing how people like it and everything else? How has that part of the journey gone?
So right now, I would love to talk about the priority in the stage of bootstrapping. So I think we're not just building an app, a mobile app. We're actually building a web enterprise class web-based application, and that needs tremendous amount of agile engineering. But when the budget is very low, we just need to prioritize things that to save energy, time, and money into something we need the most. And for example, right now we are working on, for example, we are working on the product development, but we know that, to be able to come up with a list of features that we want, we need to first get the word out to get attraction first. The more people you bring in, the more data you're gonna have, the more insights you have, then the better product you will make. So that's why right now the focus should not be keep building the product, instead building the business first. That's why right now we are working trying to partner with. We have actually several partners list up, and we partner with the brokerage firm, we partner with lenders, and we partner with the title companies. Make sure that they create this kind of pipeline for the business, and letting them to get the word out and bring the customer, which is the renters or co-buyers, back to the platform. And so in terms of the product side, then we need to figure out, okay, right now, if you're in the stage of building your pipeline, what's your marketing page on your website should be, whether, how you are easier for your business partners to integrate with your product. So that's something that we have been shifting our focus on from purely implementation of the feature for ending consumer. Instead, that we are focusing, the platform, how to make it easier for our business partner to use.
Okay, no, I think that makes sense. So almost with that then, so that's where you're at now. If you take the next 3 or 6 to 12 months, where do you see things going? How do you think things will play out, and where do you think the journey will take you?
So I would say next 3 to 6 months, we will keep building more features for our customers, which is the renters, come to our site, getting more insights to shape our product. That's for sure. But at the same time, we will work with our real estate lawyers and real estate brokers and lenders to helping as many clients as we have, that to demonstrate this business model and to get a word out, letting more people know that what we're doing here is revolutionary and makes sense and easy to adapt. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So as we reach kind of towards the end of the podcast, I always then jump to the 2 questions I ask every time. So maybe we'll jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is, what was the worst business decision you ever made?
What's the worst? I think that I can tell you what's the best idea that I've ever made, but I haven't made a worst business decision. But definitely, I will embrace, for my future, I will embrace all my, future challenges for sure.
So you're telling you've
I
perfectly implemented and launched everything, and you've never made any mistakes whatsoever? I don't know that I quite buy it. So you got to give me one. Even if it's not the worst, give me a mistake that you made that you people can learn from.
Okay. I think that a lot of founders in Silicon Valley, because they are around this ecosystem, and there's tons of startups being built every single day. And there also have VCs around here. And so many news about the startup getting successful financing. So I think a lot of founders are misunderstood that they will get financing right away as soon as they get idea, or they just get, get out of MVP. But that's not a good attitude, and that's not going to be successful. That's something that I learned also through this journey. Instead of building a perfect product and reach out, to VC and pitch to them, you should really spend time on yourself, learning different perspective, like try to fill the gap of the skill set that you don't have previously. And to build a startup, you need to build your business first. So then, what are the most important to do for you to establish your business at a non-scale stage, which is talk to your customer as many as you could, and also building your pipeline. That's very important as well. I mentioned, and then once you establish your business and validate your business idea, business model, then you're gonna talk to the VCs that if you want to scale. I think there's a lot of the lesson that I learned is don't try to just put yourself out to pitch to VC first. Instead, that focus on building your business first, make it solid before talking to VCs. That way you have a better chance, because you only get one chance meeting a great VC.
Okay, no, I think that, and you almost answered. I'll even jump. I'll give you, since I hammered you on the first question, I'll give you a pass on the second question, since you answered the first question so well. Because I think that you answered kind of both questions at the same time, in the sense that I think, if I were to reiterate, almost the business mistake people can make is that they're going to, hey, I'm going to be able to go out, get the investor dollar. I'm going, I've got an idea. I'm in Silicon Valley, and money freely flows, and everybody invests in startups, and that's not the case. You almost jump to, hey, I'll just go pitch my idea, and you can almost waste your opportunity of getting in front of VCs or getting in front of angel because you're going to be too early. You're not going to have it far enough developed. There isn't anything to invest in yet. And so then almost then turning around is get your product developed first, get your pipeline loaded, figure out your market. And then as you get those in place, then go out to your venture capital. So is that a fair summary of your answers?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, so now it's your turn. So people want to get involved. They want to go use Co-Home and they want to start to get our home ownership. They want to invest. They want to get involved. What's the best way to reach out to you?
So, hi guys, we are Co-Home Now team, and we are here to help renters to grow financially by owning their own home. We are helping them from matchmaking co-buyers to close a home that make a home co-buying process simple, efficient, and cost-effective. So please do check us out at website cohomenow.com. I have a dream. Let Co-Home help you to make your dream come true.
All right. So people want to get involved, want to reach out, want to check it out. Go to cohomenow.com. And co is just C-O, the word home, the word now.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been fun to talk about your journey. I love what you guys are doing, and I think it's a cool and novel idea. So I wish you guys the next leg of your journey to be very successful and hope things go well for you. And appreciate you coming on the podcast. For those of you that are interested in coming on the podcast and being a guest and sharing your journey, certainly feel free to go to inventivejourney.com and apply to be on the podcast. For those of you that are listening, make sure to subscribe so you can catch all the new and future episodes. And for anybody that's needing help with patents and trademarks or for your startup or small business, feel free to reach out to us at Miller IP Law and we'll make sure to help you out and get you taken care of. Thanks again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun to hear your journey and wish you all the success.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right. Thank you.